Hello, and welcome to Off the Roll. I'm your host, Troy Hirschman. It's been a little while since we've posted a podcast due to the start of college basketball season and the holidays. But this podcast is a great one. We're talking to Jamie Broz. Jamie is the manager, athletic trainer for the Center of Female Athletes at the Dayton Children's Hospital in Dayton, Ohio. This is a new position that just started up, and I think it's pretty amazing what she's doing there with a team approach for medical care for female athletes. Jamie has a lot of experience in the realm of international athletic training, as well as was an alumni of Ball State University in 1998, and then did her graduate assistantship at the University of Missouri. She shares a lot of stories in her time at Ball State, a few at Missouri, some great funny stories about her experience as a student, and then talks quite a bit about what she's doing now, which I think is very unique. So we're going off the roll with Jamie Broz. Welcome to Off the Roll. I'm your host, Troy Hirschman. We're talking to Jamie Broz today. Jamie is an athlete trainer with Dayton's Children's Hospital and an alumni of the Ball State Athletic Training Program. So we're going to talk to Jamie a little bit. She's going to tell her story, and we're going to learn a little bit more about her experiences in athletic training. So welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Troy. Thanks for having me on Off the Roll. I love it.
This is going to be awesome. So, today, really what we're going to talk about is, or the way I start this, I should say, is I'm going to have you talk about how you got started in athlete training and some of your experiences and what led you to kind of pursue this. And then we'll kind of go from there on your experiences and where you've been and all that stuff, and what you're doing now. So, so how did you get involved?
Oh man, I can tell you, I don't remember not being involved in sports. You know what I mean? Like when I look back, I started gymnastics before they allowed, kids to jump around on trampolines and things. We now know why, but
Yeah.
I walked into the gym and just kept going. I played soccer. The wrestling coach always was recruiting me to wrestle, to do something, to do more. And I can tell you probably it was in the 6th grade when my gym coach, kind of asked, I don't know, it was like a group of kids, you're all sitting on the mats and they're in, or little squares or whatever. And he's like, get those panel mats out. We're going to do this, this, and this. And it was, to set up like the most challenging obstacle course. And, of course, nobody, jumped up to do it. And I did. And he was the football coach. And we raced through that obstacle course and I beat him.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is awesome. This is something
Yeah.
that I can be a part of, and in that day and age, it was something, to be the fastest or the strongest, the most athletic, that sort of thing. And I just loved it. So I just constantly, put myself around athletics. I played soccer up until high school and did gymnastics up until I tore my patellar tendon. And that was the first time that somebody said, nope, can't do this,
Right.
And it was just kind of like, wait a minute. And they said, the Biodex is your life. It's going to tell you if you can do this or not.
Right. Yeah.
And I did not want to listen to the Biodex or the PT that I worked with, let alone the sports medicine doctor that told me, after repaired patellar tendon, that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And that was, obviously be an athlete, first of all, but to be around athletics in general. So I definitely tried to return to the gym without an athletic trainer, without the guidance, return to play protocols and,
Right.
anything medical. I just knew cortisone shots aren't meant to go into the patellar tendon. That was the only thing I learned, from being 16 and having a torn patellar tendon and ending my career. So I dug in, and I definitely hung out on the sidelines of my brother's soccer game, whether I was keeping score or, taking care of the guys as they were coming in and out.
Right.
And just hanging out on the sideline. I wanted to be the best sideline person there was, just because that's where I was. I was put there. So that was my high school, career was just being a part of anything I could be.
So really quickly,
mm-hmm.
So where's hometown at? Let's get
hometown is, believe it or not, get this on the record, Mount Healthy.
Okay.
I'm from a town called Mount Healthy, right? Mount Healthy High School is where I graduated from, and we had some great athletes. So in Cincinnati, it's a northern suburb. We can't say east or west, but that's what the city likes to claim. So so Cincinnati gymnastics was like my home
right.
gym. So when I wasn't hanging out on my brother's sporting sidelines and things, I was in the gym still, and I was still trying to make a comeback, still trying to do what I could. In the meantime, I had some teammates that were pushing for 92. And the Olympics were, just something we all, were kind of dreaming about. Then there wasn't, I would say, a vast amount of elite level training gyms and things like that. You went to the Caroli's, or you went to like the Parkettes, or you went someplace where they've had Olympians before. You had to move away from home and do all that stuff, and we weren't having that. So I helped support and take care of my teammates as they were definitely trying to push through that. Many times I was vacuuming the carpet as they were, in the chalk tray, and tears were falling because they couldn't do something, and there were my words of wisdom, was like, vacuuming the gym, being there after hours, I wasn't even, training. So that's where I kind of was like, how can I do this and stay involved, and started looking at schools, obviously, to do athletic training. I didn't know if I wanted to go, PT, medicine, that sort of thing. It was kind of out there. I didn't have much guidance from we didn't have an athletic trainer that I'm aware of at my high school, that told me, definitely go athletic training. But I can tell you what brought me to Ball State. And I competed there one time, and I'd competed at Notre Dame. I competed at Arizona State. I've been to many schools. When I walked on to Ball State for nationals, and competed there for my first time in a national competition, I loved it. And I loved Irving Gym, where I competed, and the crowd that came, and it had to be like during finals week, May,
so in the spring,
gymnastics season, and there was tons of people outside, throwing frisbee, having a nice, pleasant experience. I thought,
college.
It was not something I had thought about until I started looking at schools, and I noticed I saw they had an accredited, athletic training program, but it was, I believe, just accredited. So you'll have to fill in the history on that part, like what years that was. But I knew, there were choices, at least at that point, was to go to, one that had an accredited program or one that didn't. And Ball State matched perfectly, with that choice, and the feeling of kind of being home. So I worked hard to get the presidential scholarship. It wasn't going to be, athletic. I was going to have to go on my academic. It was out of state, for me. So it was a tough go, to make that decision for my family after they spent all the money on my gymnastics career. And
that was going to be, as I heard Tony Cox say one time. Tony told me that all the money he spent in Muncie for Caitlin basically was going to college. and luckily she got that college scholarship to play at IU, and he goes, I had to spend that money up front
You did.
to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. The payments I know I started making, um, well before I stepped foot on campus for sure. Because it was great, because as passionate as I was and as decisive as I was stepping onto that campus, this is what I want to do.
Right.
I think I was the only kid in my high school graduating class that was like, I'm going to go to Ball State, I'm going to major in this, and I'm this
Yeah.
is what I'm going to do. And there was no doubt. I showed up on campus and for a freshman orientation, and the cheerleaders were out in the field, or the
Right.
grass area right by the gym, the new arena, and they were practicing, and I just walked over and asked them if I could play, and
Yeah.
I didn't even try out. It was the summer before I walked, like a couple of weeks before I walked onto campus for freshman year, and they handed me a skirt. So I actually, was a Ball State cheerleader before I even got there. Yeah.
So what year was this? What
1994.
So 1994. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just missed each other then.
Yes.
Well, I graduated in 92. Yeah, we just missed each other. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So was that kind of wild because you're like a gymnast, and then you're kind of like, because I know most, with my experience with gymnasts, they were always like turning up their nose at the cheerleaders, like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. But like I said, like, I just, number one, I wanted to be there. Number two, I wanted to do something. I wanted to be involved in the athletic training program. How else are you going to get close to athletics?
Yeah.
I wasn't in the program yet. And so Wendy still knows. I mean, she coached me. She's still kicking it there, literally.
Oh, yeah.
And and she put me on the inside of the cheerleading line, so I could easily jump in front of a football player on the sideline and watch the game instead of turning around and cheering, because I didn't know any of the cheers.
You were there for the tumbling piece, right? That was it?
Exactly. Like, as soon as I heard the fight song, like it would start playing, I'd be like, oh, this is when I got to go do something. And then I would run and tumble, or they would throw me up in the air. And, I had the highest, kick out double twisting basket toss, and we went to nationals, and I had a blast freshman year. And believe it or not, I knew what it took to get into the athletic training program, and freshman year I flunked anatomy.
Hey, right here, anatomy. Was it like anatomy 201?
Yeah, or the 300 level or so, whatever.
I flunked. I flunked anatomy 201 my first semester because I was on the road with softball the whole time, and I had a really tough professor, and I made sure that when I took it again, that I did not have that professor. And it was
Dr. Womack.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I loved them. I loved them. I had no idea, number one, that you could withdraw from a class. I had no idea, because I'd never even gotten a bad grade before.
Yeah.
And so I just knew. So I was cheering, and this is what happened in 95 at Ball State. I cheered. We went to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you did.
I know. That was, I went. It was great. And I cheered in the Pyramid in Memphis. With the team, and it was a great kickoff to, everything. But I did flunk anatomy because of it, because we were just on the road, and season just kept going and going.
No, it's, my story with him was, and I've told Neil this story, because, Neil had him for anatomy in PT school, and Neil went to visit him, like when he was in a nursing home, he would go visit him and stuff, like we all know that Neil would. But he, so I took him the spring of 1990 is when I did it. And I lived in Howick Hall, and my alarm didn't go off. It's a Friday final. Everything's boxed up. I'm ready to move out. Alarm didn't go off. I've got like 8 minutes to get to Cooper. I'm running across campus. I go up the stairs. I think it was on the second floor, maybe his room, second floor.
I run up there,
Right.
and he was the guy that would shut the door and lock it,
Yes.
like when he was ready. So he starts shutting the door, and I literally put my hand on the door and slapped it on there. And he looks at me with this death look,
Oh,
and
always.
he just didn't say a word. And I'm huffing and puffing, and I'm sure I'm not the only student that ever did that to him.
Right.
But he basically opened the door, let me sit down. I took my final. Where it was killing me was the labs. The labs, because I wasn't there. My identification skills were horrible, and and he was killing me on the labs. But
he didn't have that many. He would put everything into a lab, and so it was so easy if you missed one, you know, or a section of a test of one.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
I know it's Neil and I've often laughed about that, because I said I think he was very tough, but he was very, very good. And because I had to take it, probably like you, because I had to take anatomy again, and I'd already taken a year of it at Vincennes. I think my anatomy skills are really, really good. And
just because I flunked it doesn't mean I didn't learn anything.
Exactly.
And that was amazing. You know, like I look at that and I'm like, I learned so much. I just couldn't learn all of what he wanted me to know because it was so hard and I missed stuff. But I know when I walked in after midterms, and I don't know, maybe it was a couple weeks, it was probably after March Madness, we cheered at the Pacer game that Michael Jordan had his comeback.
Oh, wow.
I went from Memphis to giving Michael Jordan a high five, and I was just like, I don't know what else to do, Dr.
It's over.
What do I do?
I'm tapping out.
How do I top this? And he goes, Jamie, even if you show up for the final, you're not gonna, and you pass it, you know, with the whatever, you're not gonna pass the class. Like even with, you know, AA plus, you know, like it's impossible to pass my class. And I said, well, what do I do then? And he invited me to coffee, and we talked about how to, you know, re-enroll and, you know, what I need to do next time I take it. You know, he just, you know, let's move on.
No, I mean, and that's almost a lost art now. I mean, I think if you talk to, I think there's a few older professors that still kind of do something like that, but it's so disconnected is the best way I can put it.
Contact.
Right. It's disconnected in that aspect. And again, I think that's why Neil went to visit him, because he just respected him so much from taking the anatomy class when he was in PT school, that he felt like he just needed to just touch, you know, just to do, you know, just to kind of be respectful and go say hi and stuff.
Yes. Well, I can tell you, you know, he's the one, you know, that was just like, yeah, you failed, Jamie. I'd never failed in anything, you know, and I was applying to get into the athletic training program. And I was like, oh, here I go. You know, I'm heading down the wrong road, you know, but he made sure I wasn't, you know, he just also made sure that he knew I wasn't doing, you know, what I should, my best, you know, all those good things, you know, and it was great. So yeah, that was freshman year. Freshman year was exciting. So
I was gonna say, you probably were like, okay, well, I'm sure again we're gonna talk. There's more exciting stuff coming down the pike, but it's hard to beat.
It's hard to beat freshman year.
It's hard to beat an NCAA tournament and Michael Jordan in the same year. Yeah,
can you believe that? Like within the same week, we literally were like, because we didn't know if we were going to be able to cheer at that Pacer game, because we did a lot of the Pacer games, but you know, we just would show up, or whatever Wendy would tell us to do, we would do it, you know. And she was like, no, we have to cheer at that halftime, because we were headed to nationals, so we had to go perform our national routine. So in preparation for that, and we didn't get to do a lot of that at the tournament, because they didn't allow cheerleaders.
Right.
So I was kind of like, why are we here? But it was fun. And you know, they just had so many restrictions, but we didn't do any, you know, anything really major except have fun. And so we jumped off that plane from Memphis and got to Indy, I think that night. And I can tell you when we got into the tunnel, we were in the visiting tunnel, and the security was, I mean, if you watch Michael Jordan's documentary, you see Charlie Cardinal.
Yeah.
In the tunnel.
Yeah.
And I was telling Wendy, I was like, that was us. I was like, we were there, and like we had no idea. We just were told there's a ton of media. Do not go near the athletes when they come down the tunnel for halftime, and you guys are going to go out and you'll do your thing. And so they're coming down the tunnel, and my partner's behind me, and he's we're just hyped anyway,
yeah.
and well, here comes Michael Jordan down the tunnel. He sticks his hand out, and I'm not going to leave Michael Jordan hanging, so I high five him, and then they're like, "Go," and I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute! What do I do with this hand?"
Yeah, you don't even get the moment, do you?
And my partner just was like staring at me like, you did that? Like, we were told not to touch the athletes or look at the, you know what I mean? And I was like, I couldn't leave him hanging. Like, he just did what he does coming down the tunnel from halftime, And then the documentary they're like, oh, he was thinking about his dad and everything and stuff. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what, like maybe I was his dad, like just high-fiving him.
Yeah,
like,
he needed somebody to high five. It was you.
Yeah. He needed a high five.
Yeah. You were there to give it to him. Yeah.
Yep. And so again, inspiration, right? To be there on the sideline and be there.
I mean, Scottie Pippen didn't give you a high five, did he? No.
No. Pippen did not. Yeah. So, he was way up there.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, this is your freshman year.
Yes.
But so did you apply in the fall to get in the program?
Not freshman year.
No, but like
is that sophomore?
Yeah, sophomore year. Yeah.
I was trying to think of that. I still have my application and my little essay, you write. Yeah. I still have all that. And it's funny, because that to me was that was amazing. I'd worked before, in a job, but not like something I had to apply for. And I didn't really know what to do. It was similar to getting scholarships and things like that. But, but I applied, in the fall, and I was the only one to get in.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
You were the only one that got in. Who was in your group? Do you remember?
Exactly. So I can name names because I still love all my class, because I was waiting for them. Like, I love my class, right?
Yeah.
I just really reconnected with Kurt Beach. He came out with a book.
Okay.
And he called me because he was like, Jamie, you gotta help me remember some of these things at Ball State, this, and this. So in his book, he tells the story about applying for the athletic training major that same semester, him and his brother Kevin, and not getting it. And so I had no idea. Like, I don't remember like who didn't get in with me, because I don't know. We were just freshman observers, like, and again, I resort back to my freshman year. If I was in the training room, I had to be in town doing something. But I know I got all my hours, and I showed up at the sports medicine meetings, for donuts. But like I don't really remember observing with other people and then have them not get in. So I know I was the only one, but we still had the same people in the same class, and then they got in the spring.
Yeah.
It was like Teresa Boone and couple others, but it was small,
Yeah.
That
would have been 95. That was like, because I look at the pictures, like when you come in the Bud Miller athlete training room, I mean, look at all those pictures. I mean, that was, so the Beach brothers, you mentioned Teresa Boone. I mean, Trump was already in, right?
Yeah, Trump was already in. Yeah.
Because he was
like Ben Payne. She might have been in my class.
Yeah.
It was small. I remember the beaches, and and then there was definitely more, after me, but
Right.
I know when I got in, I was the only one, and I was just like, okay. And everybody let me have it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was,
I was the rookie.
That was probably like right when they were starting to do that fall entry class. Cause I remember Dr. Widener talking to me about that, like after I graduated, and he goes, what do you think about this? And I go, I mean, I think if it allows you to get a few more people in and get them through, then great. Other than the one shot deal that you had in the spring, because then you had to wait like a whole nother year.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I jumped right into women's basketball was my first assignment.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like that was, I applied, got in straight into women's basketball.
So was Trish the athlete trainer then? Yeah.
Trish. Yep.
Yeah.
Every day, all day. I had her for class, and then we went to basketball practice. And she would quiz me on my notes, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know, Trish, my hand is still cramping from writing out all of my notes from lower extremity. But we would, it was just class constant, and it was constant feedback. She wanted me to apply what I learned that day, and it was expected, and it was good. It was good.
Yeah. No, and I think that's the thing about a lot of this now is that it's different in the aspect of, and I hate to say this because I haven't been a preceptor for the last probably 3 years. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Last night I was talking to Dave Fluker at Xavier because I drove and I stayed after to talk to Dave a little bit. I'd never met Dave, but I'd heard a lot about him, and so I just wanted to just chat. And we were talking about it, the changes in the education program and stuff. He mentioned too, like how hard it is. They're in class, but then they're going out to their clinical sites, but they may not have the opportunity to, some of the stuff they're learning in these entry-level master's classes is not applicable to where you're at.
Right.
And it's hard to learn those things. Yeah. Make the connect.
You have, I know I was on repeat. I know I was, but it made me so good at whatever it was I was doing, you know what I mean? And maybe I wasn't good at everything, but whatever, we were focusing on, it was so helpful, and it trained my eyes, to look for things, things that I'd written about, an anterior ankle sprain. Oh, what's that? Just amazing application.
Were you the only one with women's basketball at that time?
No, Casey Richardson was with me.
Yeah.
As the other student. And he was a year ahead of me. So I could probably tell you more people in that class just because that's who kind of took me in, right away, since I was interacting with them and kind of jumping in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you go through that year, and then in 96, it's like it flips over, like this, like Rex goes to Kroger and ends up in Missouri. And so were you guys like, what's the hell's gonna happen? What's going on?
I can tell you, I felt that way after Mike Ferrara left.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Because he's the one that, like, freshman year when I'm observing and stuff like that, and all this stuff is happening, and Neil wasn't Neil yet. Like he was, there was Mike, there was Dr. Widener, there was Connie, there was, just all this kind of stuff happening. And next thing you know, Mike's out,
right.
That was my first indication of like, oh shoot, what's happening to the program, but he was super cool because he was headed down to the Olympics, you know what I mean? And I knew, I was like, I've heard that before, that's something that I'm like, you can do athletic training and go to the Olympics too, like that's amazing. My buddy, Amanda Borden's heading down there too, to compete. So, the 96 Olympics were super close to my heart. And then Rex leaving after that was definitely harder, so the turnover was different. But because the program was so strong and things were so set, I ended up double majoring. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I double majored in XI because I feel like, I didn't have uncertainties about athletic training, but I just thought, maybe I need to beef stuff up here,
Right.
and we have a great XI, human performance,
Right.
So I jumped into that after sophomore year. I started tapping into the XI courses, as well as I was with men's volleyball.
Yeah.
Which was another great assignment.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Traveled to Canada with them.
Oh, you were on the Guelph trip, huh?
Guelph trip, yes.
Hopefully they were a little bit more subdued than some trips that no.
No.
We've talked about that when
if you had to say the word subdued, no.
No, the what was it? We were talking about after Don had passed. We were talking about all the stuff and to, that's what we were talking about, is like Don was the guy that you had to a little bit of non-conventional stuff mixed in with the good stuff.
Right.
But we were laughing, like all the stuff that team did, those teams did would, oh my goodness, it'd be a Title IX frenzy.
We got stopped at the border, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what's in our van?
Well, I mean, the year that, I worked at 1990, and you may have heard this story or not, but so I'm working football. Dwayne goes working men's volleyball, and they go to Guelph, and they pass the IPFW van on the way up there, and a men's volleyball player in the second van, as they're passing the IPFW van, just drops trowel and just gives them a full move right on the window. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And so, they came back and they were just laughing about, like, yeah, we got them good, and nobody was like nothing happened.
No. No.
I think there was maybe a conversation by the
Yeah.
athletic administration about, like, don't do that again.
Right.
But other than that, it was fine. But there was all sorts of crazy stuff with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. We had a blast.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of the volleyball, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was all good volleyball. That's for
Yeah.
sure. To see all the teams that were there, it was great.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys were, oh my goodness. Just there was nothing left off the table of fun. And then if you got a chance to go to a volleyball party, holy smokes, that was.
Well, it was funny because it was kind of like my introduction to international, athletes and different languages and how there wasn't a language barrier because they pretty much could all speak English, but it introduced me to the fact that they had a choice to speak something else in front of me. I didn't know if they were talking about me. I didn't know if they were talking about something they shouldn't be talking about, and I was like, I need to learn Portuguese, and then the tennis guys, and them in the training room would just be going at it. And I'm like, now I need to learn this and I need to learn that. And it was amazing. They were a lot of fun. Just all they cared about was penny drafts on Monday night. Was like, make it like it didn't matter if they partied all weekend. They were looking for the penny drafts on headliners on Monday night, and I'm like, how can you guys do this?
I think again, that's the thing, that if you explain that to somebody now, like I was talking to a couple basketball managers about that, like, where do you guys go now in the village? And they're like, we really don't go anywhere. We just kind of, maybe we go to Brothers. I go, does anybody go to the Chug? And this one manager goes, well, they have country night on Sunday nights. We sometimes go to that thing. And I said, do you see any of these guys out there? And they're like, oh no, not they're all doing their all stuff at their house or whatever. Yeah. They're not doing any of that stuff. I mean, we had football players.
Bill Street, Chug, headliners.
Yeah, we had football players that were the
laundromat.
Yeah, the laundromat.
I forget what it was called, but I lived there.
Yeah. So you're having it, you're learning, you're having these experiences and stuff. So was that your senior year then? It wasn't your senior year.
That was junior year, and then senior year, it was kind of funny because I was double majoring. I guess junior year I did get spring football. And then senior year, I'm trying to think of like what I did. I know we got into clinicals, Troy, like Health South.
Got it. So you were going out.
Yeah, like I never did one at Ball Memorial, but it was back in the day when you were going to go, when you graduated, you were going to go to a college or a high school setting. Right. You weren't, or you were going to, be what is now considered a PTA in the PT world. And again, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I loved the training room and I loved the sports world. I definitely picked up more of my XI classes and did the Ball State bodybuilding show. And really just kind of focused on the human performance. And I was started to debate whether or not I would go, because they were doing a study about exercise in space. So I didn't know if I was going to do an internship with NASA to go into that.
Yeah.
Or, go into, someplace else. So I went.
So do your kids know about the bodybuilding stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know why? Because they're still pissed off that I have muscles and I don't lift. They get so mad at me.
Mom, quit flexing in front of the mirror.
Yes. And I was like, you guys, I know how you feel because I can't remember his name. I'll think of it. But he would come in off of the spring game, football game. Yeah. And the show would be that night. And he would literally walk off the football field, come over, and he'd be like, Jamie, oil me up. So, all right, get he didn't lift, he didn't train, he didn't do it. He took his pads off, showered, walked over. Shoot, what was his name? I don't know, but we had a blast because he was in the classes. Like, it was weird. Like our exercise, this was before CrossFit. I literally, when I go into a CrossFit gym, I'm like, this was my exercise science class at Ball State. Like we all did it and we all challenged each other and we did do a muscle biopsy and then we would lift and then we would do another muscle biopsy.
You and Glenn Snow.
Yeah.
Glenn Snow, he talks about that. If you haven't listened to his podcast, Dr. Koskell, he liked Glenn because he was a wrestler and he was much in better shape than half the people in those classes. So Glenn did all the muscle biopsies.
Yeah. Yeah, for fun. Like we had fun doing it. Like who does that? Have you ever had a biopsy before? Yeah, I have. On my muscles. So yeah, the bodybuilding thing was fun. I did that junior and senior year, but I can tell you senior year was like kind of that introduction to the work setting and where are you going to go after Ball State? I didn't want to leave. I wanted to continue just learning and learning and learning. There wasn't the differentiation between sports science yet, that now is kind of, I would say has merged. It was pretty clear-cut choice. You were either going to go XI and be considered a personal trainer, not a sports science, guru, or, athletic training. Obviously it was going to have a lot to do whether or not I passed my BOC exam. So in my clinical rotations, I can tell you I got a bad grade again, and I listened to the other podcasts. Everybody knows you don't do that. And I was like, shoot, what's the deal? I was like, I went to Dr. Widener and I said, look, I know I was supposed to do however many clinical rotations or hours and stuff like that, but I'm double majoring. I only need this many hours to finish my observation, my clinical, just because Vinny needs me over at the clinic doing that work, I don't feel like I need to do it just to get an A, cause I'm not there, this is what I'm doing. So I got a C in my clinical rotation there. And I think it was just because, like I said, I was kind of, juggling all these things with XI and trying to finish that major. It took me that summer to finish. And so I graduated, I took the BOC exam and failed it the first time.
Yeah.
Which did not do good for the rate for Ball State grads. It just
well, too bad. You're in good company. Didn't you hear about that?
No.
Rex didn't pass it the first time.
Oh, I'm sure he didn't. I cried, I bawled. And that's why I'm like, wait a minute. Dr. Womack said, you're going to fail, Jamie.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've been warned, like the guru knew, Jamie will fail. I missed like it was the written part, and I missed it like by 2 points, which was one question. And I was just like, are you kidding me? One question and I failed, but I only had to take that part again. So anyway, when I did graduate, I graduated that summer of 98 because I was finished with everything XI wise, except for my thesis for them. And I drove out to Missouri, interviewed to be a graduate assistant athletic trainer. Rex had faith in me that I would pass, I guess.
Yeah.
And offered me that position. I was finishing up my undergrad thesis during 2-a-days at Mizzou.
Yeah.
And passed my BOC exam. So I feel like, that was my goal. So, yeah.
No, that's again, I think Rex saw he saw a lot in a lot of people that a lot of other people wouldn't have seen potential wise. I mean, if you go back, I mean, the Litos and the Teenies and myself, because I mean, they didn't know what to do with me when I got there. They're like, we're going to put you at swimming. No, we're going to put you at softball. All right, you're going to be under this person at softball. And I was lost. I mean, I had all this athletic training experience in high school, but I was lost trying to figure out where I was, who I was, whatever. And I go and just talk to Rex and Tony and just be like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And they're like, just relax.
Right.
Do what you do. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was okay. It turned out to be okay. And when we didn't have faith in ourselves, somebody else had enough faith in us that they were going to be willing to see it through and know that we were going to be okay to do that. And I think that was always really cool.
Absolutely. Cause I know, I mean, even talking to Neil as I was leaving Ball State, it was kind of one of those situations. It was like, do you go where Rex is, where somebody knows you, Jamie, like, do you go somewhere where, you're gonna do something, that continues what you started here. Or are you going to go a completely different direction, out on your own per se, and that sort of thing. And I can tell you at Ball State, and I hated this at the time, they never assigned me to gymnastics. Gymnastics. What are you going to learn? And you're not going to start your career there. You're going to be better in your career by doing these other things. And I never worked gymnastics until I got to Mizzou, and those there's not a lot of gymnastics programs, and college sports. So, I was scared. I was definitely scared. I wasn't gonna find a gymnastics team that would take me on. And, if they did, was it going to be a good fit? Because, I came from Cincinnati gymnastics and the elite program and, high level. Was I going to be happy? Kind of like it's like working D1, D2, D3 kind
Right.
of thing. Like, I had no idea, except for what was going on at Ball State, what college gymnastics was about, and so I would just work our quad meets and things like that. They would let me host. But I can tell you, I learned more when I worked with Tony. I never got assigned men's basketball, but he let me work every single home game as the host athletic trainer of the opposing team. And sitting on the opposing team bench was amazing. And meeting the athletic trainers from other schools and, escorting Shaq across the court to recruit Bonzi, all those things were lots of fun,
Yeah.
I mean, it was inner workings of stuff I had no idea about. But it got me close to Tony, and Tony was a huge influencer of those things, of what you want to do, Jamie, and we would have those conversations. So yeah, it was a big deal.
No, that's I think that when we talk about, that was always the thing. I think that, I would talk to friends that were at Indiana State and other programs, and there was just never, it was very mechanical is what I would call it, is that, well, you're going to do this, and then you 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 graduate and take the BSc. And then it was almost like, good luck, and some people made their way, but here was more, you could tell that there was a definite concern of your path with that staff and the academic folks. I mean, and I wasn't around when Tom, I mean, I was here for Tom's interview, and I remember it was like, I think it was William Whitehill, Tom, and I can't think of the last person that they interviewed, but Tom was the only guy that wanted to know what the students really thought.
Mm-hmm.
He came in and he went through his deal, and then at the end of it, he goes, "All right, what's the real shit going on around here?"
Right.
And then we were like, oh my gosh, he's gonna actually listen to what we want to say, And
I traveled with Dr. Widener and his goalball team.
Oh, did you really?
Yes. Yes.
Were you smoking cigars and
I was their athletic trainer, and occasionally they'd put a blindfold on me and make me go out there, but they needed an athletic trainer. And so I traveled with his goalball team.
That's awesome.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
No, that is. Cause I mean, that's the thing that, I mean, you can't put a price tag on those experiences. You can't, can't.
I find like a lot of,
So how did this happen? Were you like in his office one day and he goes, "Hey, we need an athlete trainer"?
Pretty much. Yeah. Cause I worked intramurals, you know what I mean? And they would practice in the racquetball courts, or they would practice sometimes, anytime an adaptive team could get in there, whether it was the swim and things like that. But I would work intramurals for money. After basketball or volleyball.
Right. Yeah.
Till midnight, and then I would get up and I'd be back in the classroom by 8. And so occasionally, whether it was wheelchair basketball or goalball, they would always want me to come over and work the training or whatever. So yeah, one time it was at a high school they asked me to go to, and it was an actual game. And then we traveled, I want to say it was to like IUPUI or maybe Hope College.
Yeah. Or
something, somewhere else in the area. And and whether I had to drive, obviously, or
you did.
There. Yeah. I was like, I don't know about my qualifications for that, but get them there, they were a hoot. But yeah, that's how it ended up.
There's a story. I'm trying to think. It might have been Gary. I forget which one it was, but he had that tandem bike, and he'd go tandem bike ride. I think he still goes tandem with Ramon Avila a little bit.
Okay.
But it might have been Gary that were, or no, it was Seaman Bass. So Seaman was one of the, I don't know if Seaman was around when you were around, but Seaman was a faculty member in physical education. Unfortunately, got a brain tumor and passed away probably about 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
but he was Tom's riding partner, and he said he told and he had they were like this comedy team, okay, back and forth on stuff. And Seaman would tell the story that he goes, yeah, we were riding along one day and it started getting really hard. And he goes, I'm like, what the hell's going on right here? I don't understand why it's getting hard. And I kind of look behind me and there's Tom lighting a cigar, like not paddling. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I'm not dragging your ass on down this road so you can light your cigar. You know, you have one for me? Let's go. So
you probably started pedaling backwards, like, back this up.
Yeah,
come on, what's happening?
Yeah. So I mean, you know, that's the thing is that, and I'm going to have him on one of these podcasts if I can get him to loosen up and just let it go, because he's got some great stories too. But yeah, that's crazy that's how you ended up traveling with those guys, huh?
Yeah, and that I know, and it introduced, like I said, so there's kids, you know, that are graduating now. Of course, they're becoming adults, and you know that they'll ask me, you know, Jamie, do you have any experience with Paralympics or adaptive sports or, you know, Olympic sports or anything? You know, I live in Ohio. I work in Ohio. It's football, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, you know, and they're like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, I was introduced to that, you know, like Ball State was a teaching college. It taught you everything to teach anyone, and interact with anyone. And I love that about, you know, the program is if we wanted to go do yoga, you know, as an elective, you know, that was considered, you know, something awesome. You know, we would do the race around, you know, the arena, you know, and it would include anybody and anyone, you know, for fundraising. So I tell them, I'm like, if you didn't get introduced to that or you didn't have that experience, you know, let's take a look and see where you can find that, you know, because, you know, there's, you know, so many opportunities, you know, to work with the Paralympians and things like that. So, yeah.
And I think that was Mike a little bit too, really doing that. I remember this summer, I think it was like the 92 or something like this, or this summer 91. I forget when it was. It's funny when I've looked up all these pictures on the digital media archives, there's actually a couple of file folders of the Paralympic training in that time there and stuff. And there's actually some photos of some athlete training students working with people on that too. It's kind of cool to see that. But okay, so you're at Missouri, you're doing your GA, you finally came back full circle with the gymnastics thing. You finally got that opportunity.
I did.
So how was your experience there?
So Jake Jacobson was the head coach, you know, and like anytime you go into a new team kind of thing, you know, situation, you're the new one. He had been around forever. And so it was not something I was going to jump in and, you know, change things and be radical. But I was so excited to do that. Like, hey, I know all this stuff and there's no other athletic trainer out there certified that knows gymnastics like me, you know what I mean? like here I am kind of thing. And Jake was fun because he was one of those old school coaches, and he didn't coach much, but he had such a great presence with the girls. We would take private jets to go compete against Florida, and it was the governor's plane, that sort of thing. You know, we were treated very well, and just really kind of got my feet wet with, okay, how am I going to do this? You know, like, you know, and it was probably 2 months in and we had a tib fib, you know, same day football had one. And so I was like, all right. So you have one, I have one, you know, and we rehab, you know, together. Believe it or not, we had within 24 hours a soccer player with a tib fib, and she broke her finger, collision with the goalie. And so we had 3 tib fibs going on in our training room. And you know, and I was a part of it, you know, I didn't have to work football or baseball or, you know, something of the sort. And so it really was awesome experience, because, you know, everything I wanted to do, you know, of course I feel horrible, she had a tib fib fracture, but you know, there was stuff for me to do, and I was excited about doing it. So yeah.
And kind of having that experience that it's you know, it's not, you don't have anybody like telling you what to do behind you or any of that stuff.
Right, just Rex, you know.
Oh my goodness, just Rex, because that was him. So stand right by. Are you doing that right? No.
Right. Well, he built, I mean, it was a brand new athletic training center. You know, when I got there, we were literally putting in electric in the floors for the stationary bikes and ellipticals and stuff, because that was out in the middle of the room, which was, you know, new kind of thing. And I'm like, Rex, why did you get these custom taping tables that are so tall? You know, like you know, their foot is like in my face. Like, it's bad enough it's, you know, they're taping them on my chest. You know, it's another thing if their foot is literally in my face. So I would take them over to the treatment tables and tape them, you know. So all the inflexible linemen, you know, who couldn't jump up on the table and be on the short part because they had to like flex their foot, you know, and sit up tall. They would come lay down on a
treatment table and get taped. You were the best. You were the best. I'm gonna go get taped by her because I can't stand that.
I know. But it was so much fun working football at Mizzou, because I did football and gymnastics. You know, gymnastics was my own, and helped out with cross country. But you know, I was there with phenomenal, you know, Ball State grad staff, I call them, you know, because we had Rob Hunt, David, obviously, and then you know, Casey Richardson was there, Dennis Sunderman. You know, it was like a mecca, you know, it was just like this pipeline of all of us. And it was just like taking home and moving it west. You know, so we had a blast, you know, and even Cheryl Cundy now, but Store, you know, was there, and she was a Ball Stater. So it was a lot of fun,
I'm sure that other than Eric, you know, I mean, I'm sure everybody else could handle the invasion a little bit okay, but Eric would probably like Eric was still sore.
Yes. We did. I mean, but you know, as you see, obviously with social media these days, you can see where there's kind of like hotbeds of Ball State alum, you know, and half the time you don't even know it, but it's like, oh, we did kind of take over that.
It tends to happen.
That district, you know,
it tends to happen. Well, and again, it goes back to, you know, it goes all the way back to that group that came out with in the mid 70s with Fosdick and Jim Russ and Coddington and Jim Ruthier and stuff, because I talked about him, you know, in Coddington's podcast when I was the student rep for the IATA. Steve Reisner was the president. Then you had Coddington, Ruthier was on the IATA board. Mike was coming in as the future future president, and then oh gosh, Jack Mansfield was on the board. So he had all these Ball State alums that were on you know, on there, and I didn't realize it at the time until I started, like, after the fact, started putting stuff together, like, oh my goodness. But it was just kind of like taking over. Here's the IATA executive board, and there's like 5 or 6 Ball State alums on there, and it's just kind of the way it started, and I think that's kind of the way, you know, it just trended that way, because again, I think, and not to pat our own backs, but we were quality athlete trainers because of the experiences that we got here, and we were going to work well together with each other, and we were going to do things the right way. And Rex could probably see that it was going to get done the way he wanted to get done. He didn't have to worry about
Right, right. I mean, because there was a mission to our profession. Mizzou didn't have an accredited program,
Right.
so who was going to stand up and teach the classes? Well, he's going to have grad assistants that can definitely, fill in and supplement and start build that curriculum, trying to
Right.
get an accredited program there. I mean, you had, I mean, there was really no other choice.
Yeah.
We took it on, we showed up and, definitely, had a blast doing it. That's for sure.
Which obviously led to some type of lifetime decision for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's totally arranged, we say. Totally arranged. Maybe it is a Ball State thing. I don't know, but
it was the freakiest arranged deal that ever was, right? Because you got you and then 6'10".
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you finish at Mizzou, and then does that lead you back to Cincinnati? I mean, what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, we spent David and I, when we decided, well, I can tell you, like, it was a professional decision.
Yeah.
to get married. No, like and we laugh because he literally was just like, you go interview, you go do your thing, and I'm like, okay, all right, see ya.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find someplace next, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden he was like, wait a minute. I don't want you to go anywhere unless, we go, and it was just like, okay, well, that limits my options. So we stayed around in Missouri. I became head athletic trainer at William Woods, which is in Fulton, right down the road.
So who was the head athletic trainer before you were at William Woods?
Gosh, the AD, I think.
Was it Christine Worsley?
Maybe.
So
I don't know that answer at all.
I think it was, because her husband was the volleyball. If the timeline places it right, because, well, let's see here. No, I got married in 97. They were at William Woods then. Okay. So maybe
this would have been 2000 to 2000, 99, 90, 98, 99, 99 to 2000.
It might be, it might have been somebody before then.
Okay.
But
I was gonna say, they were building a brand new athletic training center, sports and including the athletic training room. They needed a head athletic trainer. David stayed on at Mizzou, but they, couldn't get a true assistant position kind of in place. They tried. I mean, they supplemented it, in the school system with everything they could, but so we did that for a year. And then we moved to Cincinnati because we were getting married, and we knew if I was going to travel and, do crazy stuff that we would need family if we were going to have a family. So that was the decision there. There was no college gymnastics in Cincinnati. So I knew I was gonna have to find something. And David took a head athletic training job at Hamilton High School. And taught. So he was, because we both got our masters in health education and promotion. So yeah.
Well, I'm going to really jump ahead. But first of all, I'm going to ask you this question. We're going to really, because I mean, at the end of the day, I got to pick my daughter up at ballet at 8:30, and if we keep talking, it's going to keep going there. But we're going to
never stop. So if you don't pick her up, she will keep going.
Yeah, she will. Yeah, she will. She's it's Nutcracker week next week, and that'll be that's what's going on. So so I'm gonna ask you this question first, and then we're gonna jump ahead a little bit so you can talk about what you're doing right now, and then we're gonna have you back on again, maybe with Dave. Why not?
Well, David and Rob are together right now in South Bend.
Well, that would be a great podcast too. But in your time at Ball State,
I'm like, we can't do it all, but that's where I would love to be a fly on the wall at the moment.
Oh
But,
yeah.
I know exactly.
There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Yeah.
Yes.
But in your time at Ball State, what was some of the craziest stuff that you saw as a student there? I mean, and you can, no holds barred, you can, because we've all had, we just talked about Plum and stuff before we got going on this. I mean, there's got to be a Plum story in there somewhere.
He just recently, David ran into who's the equipment guy now?
Nate Matthews.
Okay. Did he play at Ball State, or did he do something at Ball State? He recognized David in an airport. And next thing you know, he's like,
equipment manager.
I believe. I don't know.
It might have been David Eha.
That sounds more familiar.
Yeah, David played basketball here in the mid '80s, but he's our color radio guy. And David travels a lot. And he's from Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably where either way, they ran into each other recently in an airport or something, recognized David. Next thing you know, he's like, look, we're switching from Nike to Adidas, or Adidas to Nike, or whatever. I got all this stuff or whatever. He's like, you want some grays? I loved the grays, just the train, they don't have those anymore. You know what I mean?
Right. No, they don't.
Get new training stuff all the time, and they don't have the grays. I loved them. That is one thing that was cool, about Ball State, and just having that right there, and that
familiarity. Yeah, it's all polyester. We've gone right back to the 70s on stuff. Yeah, I know.
It's so bad. We don't want any of that stuff. We want I still have mine. I should have worn them. I should have packed them in my bag. I still have my BSU Athletics red shorts that are Russell brand or something. They don't make them like they used to.
So when Tony left here, he left his locker in the staff locker room full of stuff. Full of stuff.
Collared shirts.
Not necessarily collared shirts, but I have a Champion oversized sweatshirt that says Ball State basketball on it that I keep in that locker. Like if I'm going on walks around campus and when it's cool, it's the most awesome, most comfortable sweatshirt I've got. It's the same one that Majerus has in that photo that he cut the sleeves off. Yeah. A couple of years ago, I wish I would have known this. A couple of years ago, they were cleaning out the equipment room, and they gave us all the gray stuff.
That's what I think they boxed them up and sent. That was right at the time. They were getting rid of all this stuff and boxed them up and sent us, a bunch.
They sent you some stuff then. Yeah. Good. Okay. Awesome.
Hard to find some.
I know. You know who it was? Well, you wouldn't have ran into. So it must have been Eha. Yeah.
I'm terrible.
Yeah. Either way. But you got some stuff though, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Good.
And then, the other crazy things, there were so many crazy things. But I can't fail to mention just the absolute cutting up we did in our classes. I'll never forget I don't know, the crazy, tests that we did. I did one time, you had to do, I don't even know what it's called, but I call it a Roman candle, where you do a whole body lift, and Trish was like, nobody can do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the beaches, you could read Kurt's book, no, they couldn't do it. And so I was sitting there in our evaluation class, why don't you have this muscle? And I'm testing them, and, just beating each other up in those classes was a hoot, and just figuring life out, whether it was between classes and having a good time, and traveling and all that stuff. I mean, it was good.
Yeah, no, I think that's, you'll think of something when we're done. That's usually what happens.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure there's, okay, here's something I did. I can tell you one. You want a crazy story?
I mean, you did high five Michael Jordan before you got the program. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. Well, I know we talked about football. There was always parties, right? While we were at a football party, I was at a football party, and it was the night before the spring game. This has made the newspaper, so I can tell the story. Like,
Yeah.
So there's excise police. I didn't know what that was. I'm a cop kid
Yeah.
and a preacher's kid. Like I never got arrested. I can't go to hell. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
That's I'm straight laced. And so I'm at this football party, and I was just a keg bitch because I wasn't going to drink, you know what I mean? And so I'm just hanging out, and excise police comes in, breaks up the party. For some reason, since I'm already in the basement with the keg, I just stay there and like freeze, you know what I mean? I probably have one Gatorade cup full, you know?
Yeah.
But nothing major, you know, and I lived right down the street. So they break it up. I kind of let everybody get chased off or whatever happens. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna walk home, you know, like before it gets too crazy. And there were some of the football players are like, man, we got to get home. We got the game tomorrow, but we can't drive because we're, the police are out there and stuff. I was like, oh, fine. Okay. So I'll walk home. I'll get my car and I'll take you guys home.
Yeah.
And then that way you're at the game tomorrow and we're good, and I'm sober. So this will work out fine. That was the plan. Troy, you know what I did? I got my car. I got the football players in there. We drive them home. I'm turning the corner where they have a barricade, like a police stop. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shit, I can't stop because they'll bust them for being drunk. Even though I'm sober, they're going to bust them for being drunk because they were, they do the sobriety test for everybody. They make everybody blow in the car. And that's because I've done that before. So I'm like, shoot. And I dodge the cop barricade and end up behind like the SAE house. And 4 or 5 cops swarm the car.
And your answer was?
And in the newspaper, the day of the spring game, there's Jamie Broz, Etzel then. Jamie Etzel had totally got pulled over by the excise police. And the spring game was woo.
So what was your explanation? Like, hey, I'm just trying to get these guys home.
Yeah. And dodge a few cops in the meantime. Like I didn't know you couldn't go around it. Like they didn't say don't go around it. I was trying to go around it.
No wonder Rex hired you. Have you ever heard, did he ever tell you the story about how they impounded the Gatorade cooler with the Subway sandwiches in it? So they used to have the cheerleaders would throw out Subway sandwiches if we scored a touchdown, and they would borrow like a 7-gallon cooler. And so they would put the sandwiches in the cooler. People would score a touchdown. Cheerleaders would throw the sandwiches up in the stands. And for whatever reason, this game, it might have been homecoming. So there was excessively intoxicated students. When they threw the sandwiches up into the stands, they threw the sandwiches back at the cops that were on the fence there, pegging them with the sandwiches. So they took the cooler away. And Rex didn't exactly have a great relationship with the chief of police at that point in time. So they tell him after the game, like, hey, they took your cooler. And we didn't get like tons of coolers like we do now. And so Monday he calls over to the police station and says, hey, this is Rex Sharp. I'm the head athletic trainer here. I want to know what the bail on my cooler is. And I guess the chief of police didn't think it was too funny. He goes, well, I'm going to set it outside the door. You can have it back.
Right.
Yeah. But don't give it to the cheerleaders again.
In it? No.
No, they were all gone. Yeah.
Well, that was the second time I had a run-in with the cops, because when I was a freshman, I left a party, and I left the party with Charlie Cardinal.
Yeah.
And our goal was, let's go to the grocery because we're not going to drink. He never had drank, never touched a drop. He was a local, so he had a car, and we were like, we're not going to drink, we're not partying, but it was probably the watermelon crawl or some, some party weekend. And our goal was to go to the grocery store and see how many ice cream sandwiches we could get and eat them, like,
Yeah.
just go do that. Well, he picks up his buddies he's walking down the street, who was obviously intoxicated. And that's how I knew, like, they're going to make you blow, even if you're a passenger. Like, that didn't make any sense to me at all, coming from Ohio. Like, we didn't have that. We had drive-through liquor stores. We didn't blow anything, except maybe the person that was driving didn't have an open container.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was blown away, and they made me blow. And I'd had, again, like a Gatorade or 2 cup full of beer. And that's how I learned how much beer I could handle before I knew when I was going to get busted. And I had to go to the judge, who happened to be this guy's grandfather, who was the judge of the county. And he said, okay, I'll let you off, but you need to donate to the guns department. We need more guns. And I was like, this is how this works in this state. What is happening?
We need more guns in Muncie. Yeah, here you go. Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, so I probably contributed to some ill relations, I guess, or something. But yeah, Muncie's a good place.
That's awesome. See, those are awesome stories. Awesome. Well, listen.
Both made the newspaper, so they're out there somewhere.
Yeah, I'll have to look. I'll have to do a little search on that. Yeah. Well, listen, you're doing something really cool in your current position. And I think it's awesome that that this is happening, because I think sometimes we're all trying to do our best to take care of student athletes and stuff, but there is a unique situation, especially with a female adolescent, and I'm kind of dealing with one right now. In fact, that my daughter's 12. She's in ballet, she's in volleyball, she's doing cheerleading, she's and I'm trying to educate her a little bit on how to take care of herself. And again, it's dad. It's just you, dad, but somebody else that would have something that would be a specialty type situation coming in, she would probably listen to him a little bit more than she listens to me. So explain to me kind of what you've got going, how this got started.
So
what led you to this, basically?
Yeah. So when, I furthered my career in gymnastics and performing arts, and just really being involved, I went to the Olympics with the men's gymnastics team. It really didn't matter, kind of male or female per se. And especially these days, there's not that much differentiation, but overall, when you get into the clinic setting and, a PT setting, the male athletes were getting back to their sport, and, so the healthcare system and the way we treat male athletes, whether it's on the sideline, in the training room, or in a formal situation, whether it was through surgery or some, I would say, any major or minor injury, they were getting back. And, so I just didn't know what was missing, per se with females. They just kept saying the dropout rate is this, like, boys shouldn't specialize until such and such, age or something. You want them to be athletes forever. Well, there was not a lot of focus on, we want girls to just stay being active, past that time period in their life, 12, 13 years old, when they go through changes and they realize and maybe start thinking, I shouldn't be this, or I shouldn't try to push through that. I'm not equipped to, especially through those changes, because they get a hiccup that may be involved in their menstrual cycle or their growth spurt, or their injury during that time that derails them completely. And so they're falling off completely, where, boys are just getting derailed to where maybe they just specialize in one sport, or, that sort of thing. So it obviously hit really, really close to home, as far as, we got to keep these kids going. It's crucial. Obviously there's a huge focus on female athletes and how much they can accomplish and all that sort of stuff. You know, I'm not necessarily focused on the end, you know, result, because I've been there, I've seen that. I know, you know, males or females, when they reach that upper echelon, it's insane no matter what. But keeping kids and especially females active and knowing it's okay, you know, to be active and to push through, or, you know, at least define, you know, something through that injury, or a hiccup or whatever it is huge. So I was brought to Dayton Children's with this center kind of already in mind. I was working at another facility, and then the generation came from all female, you know, staff. We brought in a surgeon that's female, a sports medicine doc was already there, and she's the director, and it was her kind of idea. And she's a huge advocate for athletic training, and so she knew she wanted to bring an athletic trainer in to kind of package it all up and guide the behavioral health specialist as well as the dietitian and nutrition, you know. And my biggest thing is I'm reaching out to high school athletic trainers and saying, look, I know you have 350 athletes and you it's impossible. You can't do everything.
Right.
But you send so-and-so to get his ACL replaced. And when he's released after however many visits in PT, you're comfortable taking, you know, him through the next steps to get him back out onto the field. When you have a cross country runner, you know, female, come to you every day about shin splints, it's, you know, it's the same thing, you know, but it takes more, and here's a place you can send them and they can get what they need, that you don't have the time, effort, money, you know, to take care of. We'll get them to a place that we can say, here you go. Now you do your thing, get them back to that, you know, situation in their school, you know, in their club, in their, you know, thing that they want to do, you know, with them being capable and empowered enough to take that step, you know, versus falling off. So
no, I mean, and that's really cool in the aspect of meeting a need, and telling, like you said, telling people it's okay, that you can do this. You don't have to just try to suffer through this silently. And I think with especially high school females that, oh, well, I don't want to go in there because like they just take care of the football team. We've all heard it, you know, they just take care of the football team, and we do, you know, they don't have time for me and all this other stuff. And so they do just let it go. And to a point, like you talked about, is that now they've reached this point where they don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. It's too hard.
It's too hard.
It's too hard for them.
Yeah. And
it's a lot of obstacles that they don't even know, you know, exist, you know, and a lot of it comes from themselves, you know what I mean? You know, obviously I have two female athletes, a junior and a senior. And you know, every single time they come home hurt, you know, I'm like, did you talk to the athletic trainer? Yeah. And I'm like, but did you, like, number one, did you talk to him? Like, I don't want you to just say, yeah, I went to the training room and there was 4 football players, so they're not going to be comfortable talking to them. You know, I just want them to start that conversation, you know, and it doesn't need to be about, you know, their treatment and things like that. But, you know, typically you could have a female athlete make it through their high school career and never step foot in the training room.
Yeah.
You know, and so to reach these girls in the middle-aged, you know, realm in their club sport, whatever it is, that when maybe they do make it to college and they do need their athletic trainer, they'll know how to use them. You know what I mean? They'll be able to walk in and be like, this is what I need. This is what hurts. This is what I've done in the past.
Right.
You know, and feel like if we, you know, if we have a goal and we can set it, we can get me back out on that court. We can, you know, we can do this.
Yeah.
You know,
and it sets a good example of how to be an advocate for your own healthcare.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, I know talking with my wife, I'm like quizzing her when she goes to the doctor, like, did you ask about this? Did you do this? Did you do? And she's like, well, I was nervous. I didn't know what to say. I'm not a healthcare person. That's what I hear. I'm not a healthcare person like you are. And I'm like, but I'm not always going to be around sometimes, and you need to be your own advocate.
Yeah.
To your own.
Everybody has health. Everybody has health. It's just figuring out the right care. And the athletes that come to the Center for the Female Athlete, they get a journal, from the start.
Yeah.
And, and our goal is to meet them where they're at, you know what I mean? So not go in and say, oh, look, you can do this, because they may see tomorrow is the biggest goal in the world. And we're already talking about returning, to comp season or something, we want to hear their story, and we talk to them before they even walk in the door, and we tell them we're going to talk about them with every healthcare provider that's in the clinic, so when they walk in, they can meet us, right where they want to. And it's a lot of talking.
No.
But it's good, because some aren't talking, and they bring their parent, they bring their mom or their dad or their guardian, and say, my mom will talk for me, and so just getting them to talk is a huge deal. And getting them to say those things, so that we are learning so much. We thought, oh, we'll get the post-op ACLs that are now happening at 12 and 13 years old, or we'll get the chronic this or that. No, we're getting people who, females who have suffered from an eating disorder or suffered from mental health crisis, who have left schools because of a coach and now going to a different school because of body shaming and things that are just totally could have derailed them. They could have quit. They could have just quit, and said, I don't want to deal with this. So it's been amazing. We see from a girl from bowling, to horseback riding, to anything. And it's a great resource, and it's been wonderful to be a part of. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I hope that some way, shape, or form we can have our program can have a little bit of a relationship with you guys a little bit on that. I mean, I'm not in charge of that, so
Zach already reached out, so.
Oh, did she? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Or good. Zach did. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sorry,
did.
Zach. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And
so hopefully we'll get some students, and I have a doctorate student from the East Coast right now, shadowing us, and it's good. So hopefully
it's not that far away, so it isn't.
No,
it isn't like you can't.
Yeah. No, we treat kids from Richmond, I mean, it's really not that bad at all. So.
Well, listen, I'm going to land this because I've got to
get
going.
Get your ballet. Go get her.
But I really appreciate you being on, and I know there's more to it. And like I said, maybe we can do something with you and Dave, and say, this is, even though Dave's not necessarily in it anymore, we can talk a little bit about. There's been some great athletic training couples out there for a while, and that would be fun to talk about that too. But this was amazing. Thank you for sitting down. I know that you're in Florida doing this soccer weekend thing, so
yes, I know. I'm trying not to be an athletic trainer this weekend. I'm trying to be.
You're just I know it's hard. I've got called down a couple of times this year at volleyball games, and I'm like, I'm really just here to see the volleyball game, but I'll do this anyway. So anyway, Jamie, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a blast. I loved it.
And so we'll I'll get this all put together, and then I'll send it to you, but I do appreciate you doing it, and like I said, your story is really cool, and I'm glad that a lot of people are going to hopefully get to hear it. So
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're off the roll with Jamie Broz. Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to thank Jamie for coming on the podcast today. Her story is very unique and interesting, and it was a lot of fun talking to her. She's had some really cool athletic training experiences and some really, really cool personal experiences. But I also want to say, hey, it just goes to show that you can make an impact wherever you're at. And she's making a tremendous impact at Dayton Children's Hospital with this new clinic. So as always, give us a feedback on offtheroll, all one word, at gmail.com. Some of those I've talked to you on the feedback email. We're going to have you on as guests. I'm just trying to work stuff out from my day job, working basketball, but we're going to get to you to do this. So I want to thank again, Jamie, for coming on. It was a great episode, and I look forward to seeing you all here, hopefully after the holidays, again with another great podcast on Off the Roll.